This is Nereid Atlas, where global stories tend to become more complicated the closer you look at them. This week, smoke from major Canadian wildfires pushed air quality alerts across U.S. cities. In the middle of that, Donald Trump threatened new tariffs on Canadian goods over the cross-border haze. Ottawa emphasized the firefight already underway and ongoing coordination with U.S. agencies. It's a charged moment, a climate emergency colliding with trade politics, and a question about whether a drifting sky becomes something you bill a neighbor for or a risk you manage together. And depending on which coverage you saw, it could look like preventable negligence with a price tag or a warming-driven disaster that nobody can switch off. For this one, we went through 15 articles from 12 outlets across 9 countries, state-aligned TV alongside national papers, a wire service in the mix, in English, Italian, and Japanese, and the picture shifts when you set them side by side. Elena's been tracing those shifts, and she's here to take us into what changes and why. Nereid Atlas, Synthetic Voices, Real Analysis. He wants to put a price on smoke.
On the smoke, yes. The US president said he'll add the incalculable cost of wildfire haze from Canada to tariffs on Canadian goods.
That word, incalculable. How do you invoice a sky?
With a customs form at the cloud line. The Post blamed Canada for filthy, polluted, and unhealthy air crossing the border as cities like New York and Chicago sat in a gray film. Detroit, for part of the day, clocked the worst air in the world on one tracker.
And people felt it. The stinging eyes thing, the dull headache. So the tension is border problem you can bill for versus shared climate mess nobody can fence off?
Exactly. 2 narratives, both trying to make sense of the same burning forests.
Start with the billable border story.
In that framing, Canada's at fault through mismanagement. Willful negligence is the phrase one outlet quoted. Forests not maintained, brush not cleared, smoke invading the US. A reader mostly seeing that might think, Americans are paying ER bills and lost workdays because Ottawa didn't do basic upkeep. Tariffs become a fairness tool. If you won't control the fires, you at least cover our costs.
And I can feel why that lands. If your kid's asthma flares in Cleveland, you want someone to be accountable. It doesn't feel abstract.
Right. It's not irrational. It puts emphasis on immediate harm and a responsible neighbor with agency. It omits or downplays the role of heat, drought, and wind. It assumes you can treat a seasonal hazard like a policy failure with a bill attached.
Also, tariffs aren't just weather policy. They're leverage. Isn't there a trade story under this?
Canadian reporting tied the threat to stalled negotiations. So if you squint, the smoke becomes a talking point inside a broader hardball posture. It's familiar. Make an externality sound like unpaid dues, then demand payment.
Like telling NATO to settle up, but with pine trees.
The invoice changes, the tactic doesn't. It treats tariffs as a way to reassign costs quickly to a visible counterparty. And it casts the president as protector. Strong border, strong lungs.
Okay, what does the other narrative make of the same sky?
It starts with systems, not culprits. Coverage that emphasizes climate science notes hotter, drier conditions priming forests to burn longer and jump farther. Experts say that's what drives the scale. The Canadian leader's line that both countries share responsibility fits here.
So the omissions swap. Now the piece you can actually punish, specific missteps, fades, and the big driver, warming, takes center stage.
Yes, and that makes tariffs look strange. You can't tariff a jet stream. You can invest in joint firefighting, air quality alerts, fuel treatments, decarbonization. This framing treats the health alerts and eerie orange skylines as symptoms, not invoices.
And a person mainly seeing that might feel exasperated. Like, stop playing tariff chess and bring N95s to the school nurse's office. And maybe a little moral whiplash, because the US is a huge historic emitter.
That's in the subtext, even when not said. It reshapes who looks trustworthy: scientists, firefighters, cross-border planners, and who looks opportunistic.
So, two reasonable readers. One hears, your family's being hurt by an avoidable neighbor mess. Make them pay. The other hears, you're living inside a shared hazard. Coordinate, don't punish.
And each has receipts. The first has a president's blunt language and a tariff lever you can picture. The second has a week of data points and experts saying this is the new baseline.
The smoke makes both stories feel true.
That's why they stick.
There's another wrinkle I can't shake. If this is cross-border pollution, haven't we handled that before without tariffs?
We have. And that's where the venue question, diplomats or customs officers, gets interesting.
Venue?
Think of past transboundary problems. Acid rain, ozone. The US and Canada built agreements, set targets, shared monitoring. No one pretended you could backbill a thunderstorm. This time, the tariff talk pulls the dispute out of environmental channels and into trade war theater.
And that changes what a listener imagines is possible. In trade land, you can flip a switch and prices move tomorrow. In climate land, solutions feel slow, procedural, and endless PDFs.
Accurate. A neutral report from Asia simply noted the facts. Hundreds of fires, smoke blankets cities, Detroit's air tops a global index. That leans you toward phenomenon to manage. A British public broadcaster pulled in experts who say warming is amplifying fires. That pushes structural cause to address.
Meanwhile, if your main touchpoint is American coverage quoting invaded by filthy air, your brain is primed for borders, trespass, red lines.
Language matters. Invasion frames the sky as a border violation. It makes a neighbor look like an aggressor, even if the mechanism was lightning strikes on desiccated boreal forests.
Then there's trust. Who's credible inside each frame?
In the tariff frame, the president speaking plainly, business owners tallying losses, maybe a sheriff closing beaches. The villain is a foreign government. In the climate frame, meteorologists, respiratory doctors, wildland crews exhausted after 18-hour shifts. The villain is heat and policy delay.
The omissions are telling. The tariff story mostly skips that Canada's towns were choking too, and that some smoke came from Minnesota as well. The climate story, in turn, can gloss over real debates about fuel loads and prescribed burns.
Exactly. There are policy levers on forest management, and they're complicated. Jurisdictions, indigenous stewardship, remote ignition sources. But a reader in the tariff frame hears, they didn't rake the forest, full stop. A reader in the climate frame hears, we can't rake our way out of this, and moves on.
Different conclusions, different emotional temperature. One is anger with a clear target. The other is dread with a long to-do list.
And both are intuitive reactions to waking up under a brown sky.
How does international coverage outside North America steer it?
A Hong Kong paper emphasized the sheer scale and the incalculable cost. Quote, less heat on blame, more on spectacle. Detroit, worst in the world. Warnings across states. A Russian outlet tied it to the World Cup final, amplifying the drama of Western cities under a pall. Those choices shift salience. Sport disruption, global ranking, political theater, less about policy competence.
So depending on what you read first, you might believe three different truths. My neighbor wronged me, the planet is warning us, or the West looks chaotic.
And when two people meet at work, one marinated in each version, they are not disagreeing because one is gullible. They are answering different questions. Who pays me back? Versus, how do we stop the next one? Versus, what does this signal about power?
What do you do with that practically? If you're a mayor or just someone picking up an inhaler,
you can hold two ideas. Demand better forest and land practices where they matter, and resist the seduction of a tariff that pretends to fix wind patterns. Support cross-border fire crews, push for the boring climate investments, and notice when a negotiation tactic borrows your fear to move a separate agenda.
That's the hidden incentive, isn't it? the trade talks, the domestic audience that likes a fight, the image of control. Tariffs feel like a switch you can flip when you can't blow the smoke back.
Control is a powerful story in a week when people felt small.
The piece that haunts me is the incalculable. If you can't count the cost, you can make it anything you need it to be, politically.
And once the sky's a line item, every hot wind becomes a billable offense.
We might be drifting toward a world where the weather needs a passport.
And where the argument over price starts before we've agreed what, exactly, is crossing the line.